The stage was set, the lights were dim, and the crowd waited quietly inside a grand ballroom in Manila. Natalie Cole was scheduled to perform. It was a comeback show, or so fans hoped. But as the band stood ready and the stage remained empty, whispers began to spread. Something wasn't right. Natalie wouldn't be performing that night. It was one of her last scheduled appearances. Months later, on December 31st, 2015, news broke across the world. Natalie Cole had passed away at just 65 years old. The official cause, congestive heart failure linked to a rare lung disease. But behind the headlines was a deeper truth, a more haunting story. A secret Natalie had quietly carried for most of her life. She had fame, she had Grammys, she had the voice of an angel.
To hell and back. I have seen the edge. I have seen the dark side.
But she also had wounds the public never truly saw. The loss of her father at 15, the shame of addiction, the private pain of working on the streets to survive, and the invisible scars left by a family legacy that was both a gift and a burden. It takes over your body, it takes over your mind, it takes over your soul, Natalie once said about addiction. It's the kind of truth that stays hidden behind bright lights and studio walls, until the silence makes you hear it louder than ever before. But how did the daughter of one of the greatest jazz legends of all time, a woman born into music royalty, end up battling a darkness so deep she nearly didn't make it back? This is the untold story of Natalie Cole, and it's one you won't forget. You're listening to Retro Waves, the channel where music legends live forever. If you're moved by soulful stories and the timeless voices that shaped generations, make sure to subscribe and join us on this journey through music, memory, and meaning. She was born into brilliance on February 6, 1950, at Cedars of Lebanon Hospital in Los Angeles, the same city that would one day whisper her name through jazz lounges, record stores, and memory-filled ballrooms. Her father was Nat King Cole, a man whose velvet voice and grand piano filled the airwaves of America. Her mother, Maria Hawkins Ellington, had once sung in the Duke Ellington Orchestra. Together, they were a dynasty in the making. And Natalie? She was the little girl in the back room, listening quietly as legends passed through her living room. Growing up in Hancock Park, a wealthy and predominantly white neighborhood, Natalie often described her family as the Black Kennedys. It was a nickname rooted in elegance, fame, and social influence. But beneath the polished image was a family struggling with quiet tensions. Natalie's mother, Maria, held strict views about appearances and respectability. Colorism had silently crept into their household. Despite being a dark-skinned man, Nat King Cole's fame gave him status, but that didn't erase generations of bias. In her memoir, Angel on My Shoulder, Natalie recalled that when she got too friendly with the black workers in their home, her mother was appalled. Maria wanted her children to mix with a different social circle, one that aligned more with wealth than with race. "I didn't understand it then," Natalie later wrote, "but now I see how those messages shaped how I saw myself." Despite the strict expectations and unspoken pain, music was always there. It wasn't just background noise. It was the family language. From a young age, Natalie sang on her father's Christmas album and performed casually at family events. By the time she was 11, she was already performing in public. Her voice had a different texture than her father's, smooth but earthy, soft but grounded in something deeper. But nothing would shape her childhood more than losing the man she called Daddy. In 1965, when Natalie was just 15, Nat King Cole passed away from lung cancer. The final Christmas she spent with him, he had come home looking frail and skeletal. She barely recognized the man who once danced through their kitchen and made up silly songs to make her laugh. "He was so much fun," she said years later. "I just wish he could be here. That's the hardest part of this."
The piano, there was an ease and a comfortability that he had.
Losing her father didn't just break Natalie's heart. It broke the foundation she stood on. She had to learn how to carry the Cole legacy without the man who built it. And as she stepped into adulthood, music was no longer just her inheritance. It became her survival. After high school, Natalie Cole didn't immediately chase fame. She enrolled at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, majoring in child psychology. But even in lecture halls and dorms, the rhythm of her blood was musical. She began singing with a band, rehearsing late into the night. That's when the other Natalie started to emerge. Not Nat King Cole's daughter, but Natalie with her own voice, her own soul, her own fire. At the time, she was singing rock and R&B, not jazz. It was intentional. She was carving a different path. In 1972, she started performing in small clubs around Los Angeles with a group called Black Magic. The crowds came out of curiosity, mostly because she was Nat's daughter. But when she started to sing, something shifted. Her voice had power. It had ache. It wasn't jazz, and it wasn't imitation. Still, not everyone was impressed. People wanted to hear her father. Some even walked out when they didn't. "At first I felt like I wasn't enough," Natalie later admitted, "but then I realized I wasn't supposed to be him." That moment changed everything. She was introduced to songwriters Chuck Jackson and Marvin Yancey, a musical duo who believed in her potential. Marvin, in particular, saw something sacred in Natalie, a story and a sound waiting to be uncovered. He brought her to a Chicago studio where they laid down tracks that would soon change her life. In 1975, her debut album, Inseparable, was released under Capitol Records. And just like that, the music world took notice.
I'm so glad you found me in time, and I'm so glad that you rectified my mind. This will be an everlasting.
This Will Be an Everlasting Love became a top 10 hit. The song felt like pure sunlight, bright, playful, unforgettable. It won Natalie her first Grammy for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance. That same year, she won another for Best New Artist. Just like that, Natalie Cole had arrived. But with fame came comparisons, and the media, always hungry for drama, called her the new Aretha Franklin. It didn't sit well with either woman. The tension simmered when Natalie beat Aretha for the Grammy in 1976, ending her 8-year winning streak. Natalie was elated. Aretha, reportedly, was not. "She gave me the iciest stare," Natalie recalled about their first meeting. "It took me weeks to get over it."
For all her support, I want to say hello to my children at home. We are so cool tonight.
Despite the comparisons, Natalie didn't back down. She released Natalie in 1976 with hits like Sophisticated Lady and Mr. Melody. Then came Unpredictable in 1977, featuring her powerhouse track I've Got Love on My Mind, which pushed the album to platinum. That same year, she released Thankful, which also went platinum thanks to Our Love, a romantic anthem that echoed across radios and roller rinks. By the end of 1977, Natalie Cole was more than a rising star. She was a force. 2 platinum albums, a television special with Earth, Wind and Fire, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And yet, in the quiet moments, she was still fighting to feel worthy of it all. She had proven herself to the world, but deep down, the shadow of her father still lingered. Fame can be loud, but the quiet battles, the ones behind closed doors, are often the most devastating. As Natalie's albums went gold and platinum, and her smile lit up TV specials, she was fighting a war inside herself. She was overwhelmed, overbooked, and emotionally unraveling. The pressure to live up to her name, to keep topping charts, to stay perfect, it all came at a cost. And it started in college.
Those that are thinking of getting into it, I would say that it's a foolish thing to do, because the bottom line is you don't know if you're one of those ones that...
I had a boyfriend who was doing heroin, Natalie later said, so I wanted to try it. It wasn't peer pressure, it was just curiosity and pain. That curiosity turned into full-blown addiction. Cocaine, heroin, LSD. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't experimental, it was survival. Natalie began stealing welfare checks from mailboxes, committing check fraud, fading in and out of hotel rooms in a haze. It all came crashing down when her mother, the once elegant Maria Cole, filed for legal conservatorship, declaring her daughter mentally unfit to care for herself. Still, Natalie kept performing. She even released a new album, I'm Ready, in 1983. The title was ironic. I wasn't ready at all, she confessed later. I was high during some interviews I was using in the bathroom between press events. She appeared on Good Morning America, looking composed, smiling. But behind that smile was pain and a lie. I have to make amends, she said years later. I wasn't clean, not then. I was still in it. Things spiraled further. She had run out of money, lost trust with industry insiders, and in a moment of complete desperation, Natalie admitted to something few knew. She worked as a prostitute for 2 weeks to survive. Absolutely. I did it to survive. I literally did it to survive. She didn't glorify it. She didn't excuse it. She just said the truth. That addiction had stripped away her soul, and she did what she had to do for the next high. And yet, she didn't stay there. In a moment of clarity, Natalie checked herself into rehab in Minnesota. She planned to stay for 30 days, but halfway through, she broke down and asked to stay longer. If I go home now, I'm going to die, she told the staff. She stayed 6 months. She began learning that addiction wasn't just about weakness. It was an illness, one that needed honesty, surrender, and support. Natalie's return wasn't flashy, but it was real. She began working again, releasing her album Dangerous, and preparing for a concert with Smokey Robinson in Las Vegas. Slowly, people welcomed her back. They saw her beauty, her honesty, and her fight. Some people might never forgive me, she said, but I've changed. Most people have said, welcome back, Natalie. Behind her comeback was a deeper spiritual truth. She was learning to love herself again, not just as Nat King Cole's daughter, not just as a Grammy-winning artist, as Natalie, the survivor. After rehab, Natalie embraced recovery, but years of drug use had already taken a toll. In 2008, she was diagnosed with hepatitis C, a silent illness she believed came from years of intravenous drug use. Not long after, her kidneys began to fail. She needed dialysis 3 times a week just to survive. She was tired, but not finished. In 2009, she received a call from an organ donation agency. A family had said yes, a match, a second chance at life. She returned to the stage, sang again, laughed again, but it wasn't the same. Her final performance in Manila was brief, her voice no longer as steady, not because she lacked talent, but because her body was quietly closing the curtain. On December 31st, 2015, Natalie Cole passed away. She was 65. Natalie's funeral was held at West Angeles Church of God in Christ. Legends like Smokey Robinson and Stevie Wonder came to honor her. They didn't just remember the voice, they remembered the fight. "She straddled genres gracefully," one friend said. "She was jazz, she was R&B, she was Natalie." In her will, Natalie left behind more than assets. She left dignity, she left gratitude, she left truth. Her son, Robert, would sadly pass away just 2 years later, echoing the heartbreak that seemed to trace the Cole family. But her music lives on. "I think of him every time I sing," she once said about her father. Now, somewhere in eternity, maybe their voices rise together once again, a duet of healing. And we just press play. Thanks for watching Retro Waves, where timeless voices are never forgotten. If this story touched you, subscribe for more soulful tributes that celebrate the music, the memories, and the meaning behind the legends.